thank you so much for joining me on another episode where we get to spotlight, into different entrepreneurs, their business journey, all of the exciting things in their story, and just sharing some of their wisdom. So, Dave, thank you so much for coming on and spending a few minutes with me today. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me, Macy.
Of course. Well, Dave and I connected through my dad a few weeks ago, and then we had a one-on-one, and he just shared a little bit about his story, and I was amazed by some of the stuff that he's about to share with you guys. So I'm excited for him to just kind of take it away. So, Dave, why don't you get us started and just tell me a little bit, a little background about you before we launch into kind of the book and what you do now.
Absolutely. I began my business career after college, graduated from a small liberal arts school in Illinois, moved up to the Chicagoland area, and got started in the printing business. I was in printing for over 20 years, ended up owning my own printing business, sold it. And as the printing technology changed, I wanted to get involved in the technology aspect. And I didn't land in technology for printing, but ended up in educational technology. So I worked with school districts across the country for a number of years, was involved in some state-of-the-art technology, and then ultimately ended up in the human resources and payroll space for about 5 years prior to joining the Chamber of Commerce and moving here to Cincinnati. So my wife and I have been married for about 3 years, and I've been the president of our local Chamber of Commerce as a full-time position, kind of a late in life career change, and working with business owners and helping them grow their business here locally in Cincinnati.
That's great. And I'm glad that you kind of highlighted what the Chamber of Commerce is meant to do, because I know a lot of business owners are the ones who listen to the podcast, but there could also be some new ones, or just those who, they've had their business for a while, but they've not really like launched out into like maybe their community as much, maybe they're online or for whatever reason. So Chamber of Commerce is a great place for new businesses or even established businesses to really connect with other people in the business, really get their name out there and just connect with their local community. Am I right?
Absolutely. Yeah, the importance of joining your local Chamber of Commerce allows you to connect with other business owners in the area. They provide a huge marketing opportunity, and connecting people locally one-on-one. Building relationships is so important in chambers of commerce, not just ours, but others across the country. And whether that's a countywide or citywide or area-wide chamber of commerce, those connections, those relationships are invaluable.
Definitely. I know there are so many people, like I know a lady near where I live. She loves the chamber. She's in her chamber and she visits a lot of other chambers in the area as well. And she hosts an event for her local chamber in Port Orange, Florida. And she just did an amazing job hosting that event. And there were a lot of great people there that I was able to meet. So it's a great thing to go out. You can always visit some events here and there if you're not really sure what you're getting into, but not to turn into like a whole thing about Chamber of Commerce. I would love to talk a little bit about this very exciting endeavor that you just have started. And I want to give people just a little bit of context before you really launch in so people can really understand what it is that you recently wrote a book. And it's really amazing how this book came to play. So if anyone's not written a book before, I hope they have the same mindset as I do. It's like, wow, a book is so exciting. I'm sure it takes a lot of effort. And I know from my dad's experience that it does. It's usually something that can take many months, even years to really cultivate either your idea, the writing, the editing, the publishing, the post public, like all of these things that go into writing a book. So now that I've said that, Dave, why don't you tell us a little bit about your journey writing a book and what your book is and how it helps people?
Yeah, absolutely. The title of the book is Echoes Across the Tracks, and subtitled Life Lessons Through Unexpected Connections. As you and I got connected, you don't know where those relationships or connections are going to come from. And the main character is heading to Chicago from New Orleans, and his flight gets canceled. Um, Most of us will rebook a flight and just simply go through the motions of horrible airline travel, and oh, I got a delay and I got to sit in the airport. But instead, the cab driver suggests that he take the train instead. So that starts the 20 or 30 hour adventure to Chicago. And I've traveled a lot over my career. And last Thanksgiving, just a year ago, I started this outline of business travel and came up with the idea of writing a book. But I sat down and, as I shared with you earlier, wrote the book in 9 days. It's 40,000 words. It's a stream of consciousness. And I really didn't think about the spelling, the language that was used, the punctuation. None of that really mattered to me. What mattered was getting the idea down on paper. And I've encouraged others, and people have actually encouraged me to just keep writing. So
Mhm.
if you're thinking about writing a book and you're listening to Macy's podcast here, sit down and just start typing, and keep writing, and on a daily basis carve out the time to do that. And the process was another 4 months to be able to bring it to publication through professional editing, professional illustrations, making the book polished, made it a better work. And today, both available on Amazon and through my website. I'm really proud of the piece that came out. So I'm excited to tell others about the journey, and how that came about. Finding a publisher or a hybrid publisher or self-publishing
Mhm.
has lots of opportunities and challenges associated with
Mhm.
it, and it's not right for everyone. So you have
Sure.
to find a way that works for you.
Definitely. And what I find just really exciting about this is probably one of my favorite topics when it's come to business. And I'm sure people can kind of guess that by, the podcast episodes I do and the fact that I have so many. It's not just because, I love having a podcast, it's because I love connecting with people and I love learning about what they do. And it's really my favorite thing to go into like a one-on-one meeting with someone and being like, we got an email introduction or whatever happened, and just to learn about the best ways and who I connect. I just get so excited to do that, me personally. Like, for example, I'm in my local BNI here in town, and because of that I've been able to connect with other BNI chapters, especially because my seat isn't taken in other chapters, which is how I'm able to go visit. And so I was just talking with the guy last week and he was like, I met him like maybe 4 months ago, but I remembered his very specific ask in that on that day. And so it came to me and I was like, I should connect you with this guy. I know you told me this 4 months ago, but I just
Yeah.
remembered this again. And he was like, wow, he's like, what do you get out of this? I'm like, I just get excited to make an email introduction, to log it into the app, to just hear the stories that people are able to now form because I made a 2-minute email introduction. Like that's exciting for me. So I'm just so happy to hear about this book, and all of the things that you're writing. So without spoiling, I mean, too much, what do you find really special about connecting people like that?
Yeah, it's a personal, I guess I tell people it's my superpower,
Mm-hmm.
to be able to connect others. But what happens today, and you've got earbuds in currently into the computer for this conversation, but so many of us are tied to our phones.
Right.
We're sitting at a table and we're checking our email, we're watching our chats, we're making a post about the restaurant, and we're not necessarily engaging as
Sure.
much as we probably should. So when I make a connection with somebody, on a personal or professional level, it's just exciting to hear their story. I met
Mm-hmm.
a woman over the weekend at a book signing event who had walked the Appalachian Trail. And
Wow.
I had never met anybody that walked the entire length of the Appalachian Trail, which is
Mm-hmm.
a huge deal. And she did it over a 40-year period.
Oh.
Every section had a different story to it. She got away from it for 10 years because she had kids. And
Mm-hmm.
then she started taking her kids on some of the segment walks and sharing the Appalachian Trail with them. It was just fascinating to be able to hear her story, and get to understand it from her perspective. And if we're so closed to, I've already got my friendships, I've already got these relationships,
Mm-hmm.
intergenerational. I mean, there's a different, significant difference in age between you and I, Macy, and yet we've connected, through the writing process or through the
Mm-hmm.
podcast process. If you're not open to those connections or those
Mm-hmm.
relationships, If you don't keep your mind open to starting that conversation with somebody else, you'll never have them because you'll find like-minded people in the same place. You'll always watch the same news channel as opposed to
Right.
going to the opposite viewed news channel. For me, tomorrow night at the election, I will just as much be paying attention to Fox as I am to CNN
Sure.
to be able to get both sides. And most people aren't doing that today. So I'm always encouraging young people to look to older people to mentor
Sure.
as mentors, or to blaze the trail that have blazed the trail ahead of them.
Yeah. It's exciting when you mention something like that. Me and my family, we were in the Grand Tetons.
Mm.
And my dad is the type of person like he'll just talk to anyone. And so he was just complimenting some bikers. They had some really cool bikes. And my dad's like, wow, that's so cool. And we just got to talking, and then we found out, this is in what, all the way on the other side of the coast. We're like, oh, where are you from? And they go, oh, we're from Florida. And we're like, oh, where in Florida? They're like, oh, the Daytona area. And we're like, wait, where? And they're like, well, you probably haven't heard of it. It's called Palm Coast. Like they didn't want to tell us at first because it's speaking from experience. No one knows what that is. So I usually never say, I just say Jacksonville or St. Augustine or Daytona, whatever people would know the most. And we're like, we're from Palm Coast. And it's just like you never find these things until you really start talking to people. So it's not nearly maybe as exciting as the Appalachian Trail, but it was really cool for us because
Oh, absolutely.
what are the odds?
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, that's really cool to hear, and it's something that I'm sure you understand that I hold very close to me as well too, of people my age getting out there talking to people of all walks of life, right? I feel like I can learn something from, a high schooler as much as I can learn from someone else. Someone who's graduated college, someone who hasn't, all these different types of things. No one really has the same point of view on life. So it's just really interesting. I love just learning from people's experience. That's always been my favorite way. And then learning from my own experiences is also really interesting. So I really, really appreciate you taking the time and just kind of sharing about this huge passion that I think we both share when it comes to connecting and learning from people. So I'll make sure I have Dave's book in the description, the link to it. Check it out. 40,000 words. It's a lot to write, but I feel like I read really fast. So to me, that's nothing. But take time, go through a book like that and really, really digest it. So before we hop off, Dave, I'd love to know who is an entrepreneur you'd love to have coffee with, or whatever beverage of your choice with, and why.
Yeah. It probably would be a beverage. It would be a beer. It
Mm,
would be on a golf course. It wouldn't
hmm.
be over a tabletop because, again, when you set a meeting for 15 or 30 minutes in a coffee shop
Sure.
and it lasts an hour, a golf of 18 holes is 4 hours.
Oh,
And you get to know somebody socially. You get to sit on the tee and wait for the next group ahead of you. So you can pick up the stories. You can have a beer afterwards and a sandwich. So I would want 5 hours with John C. Maxwell.
ah,
John, entrepreneurial business leader and author. And I'd love to be able to pick his brain just about his writing process and his motivations associated with, and where he came from and how he got to where he got. Those stories are written, but hearing it in the first person is different. If you ask Jeff Bezos, or you ask um, uh, Steve Jobs, or you ask Bill Gates about their start in a one-on-one conversation,
hmm.
they might share something that allowed you to interact with them, to ask a deeper question. And I might not even know what that question is until I heard that response. And like the woman from the Appalachian Trail, she is interested in writing a book about walking the Appalachian Trail,
Yeah.
to walk the Appalachian Trail in small steps, is something that not everybody would think about doing. And so fueling that passion for her allowed us to have a really dynamic conversation. And somebody like John C. Maxwell, or any author of stature today, that would be a blast.
Yeah, I bet. And like you said, it's a little bit different having a conversation with someone than reading their words because you know from experience it has to go through editing and you want to make sure it's concise and clear and to the point and the readers can really understand it. But sometimes in the conversation when it gets messy or messy in the sense of like you don't know what the right word is at the moment and you're stuttering over, you're like, wait, what is the word that I'm thinking of? And that's really when I feel like you can connect with someone. And I speak from experience where these are just conversations that I record and I get to post online. And that's where I learn so much from finding those little imperfections in people's speech. So, Dave, thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciate it. This is a total blast. And, I feel like you and I just have so much in common and so much shared passion that it makes the time just fly by. So, I really appreciate your time today.
Thanks for having me,
Today.
Massey.
Thanks.
Macy. Great, great to spend time with you,
Me
and
too.
have a terrific day.
Thank you. And to everyone watching, I really appreciate you as well. And I will see you next time. Bye.
Bye now.